Alrighty, so apologies that this review is a day late, but today we are going to look at the first part of the penultimate match week of the 2023 MLS regular season. And judging by how this penultimate match week has ended, it seems like it is indeed going down the wire in terms of these playoffs spot. Because while we did see some team getting eliminated from the playoffs, nobody was able to clinch in the penultimate week of the MLS regular season, and we could have up to five playoff spot that could be up for grabs. Could be free playoff spot that could be up for grabs in the Western Conference, and then two playoff spots up for grabs in the Eastern Conference. But that being said, let us start with the first game, which is Atlanta versus Columbus. So both of these teams, of course, are already made it to the playoffs, but now it's all about seeding because, as much as we talk about the playoff races, there's also some seedings that are still going to be a big talking point as we heading into decision day, especially for teams that is trying to get into the top four spot so they can at least have home field advantage in the first round of the playoffs. And in this one, in a matchup that, with the way that both of these teams are kind of near each other in the standings, this could be a preview in terms of what we could see in the playoffs between Atlanta versus Columbus. And in the end, for Columbus, they would be disappointed that they didn't get all 3 points in this one. But also, I think this game kind of sums up Atlanta United this season, where for whatever reason, when you watch an Atlanta United game, you cannot leave early. When they're playing at home, because for whatever reason at home this season, there's either has to be a late goals that is scored either by Atlanta United or their opposite position, and it happened again in this one. So in the first half, Cucho would miss wide from close range before Landon fires it high from close range. I thought this game was very open, which is not a big surprise. I had a feeling this could be one of those games where it could be a bit of a high scoring affair with the way that both of these attacks seems to be clicking on all cylinder. Didn't happen, of course, that is. Guzan then denied Cucho from close before Gresso would heads it high on the header. Cucho would then hits one wide off of a deflection. Columbus was definitely getting some good chances. They were looking for the opener. Though Johnny Silver would blast it high from long range before Rosetto would miss it high from long range. So Atlanta had some chances near the end of the half, but we do have to have time scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Guzan was able to deny Cucho from close range before Amada would hit one right to Shote. Both goalkeepers was definitely on their game in this one, especially for Brad Guzan. This was definitely one of his best performances he has had this season for Atlanta United. And again, both of these teams once again getting some good chances, but the question is, who can get the opener? Well, Cucho tried to do so. In fact, Cucho had a lot of chances in this one once again, but he was denied once again by Guzan from close range. Nagbe would then hits one right to Guzan from the corner. If Nagbe would have scored that one, that would be kind of interesting to see what he would do. I'm pretty sure he won't be celebrating against his former team, right? I mean, you would assume that of course, is the case, even though he hasn't played for Columbus for a long time. But Morris would then hit one right to Guzan in the 57th minute. Columbus continued to fire away from long range and were looking for the opener. And they finally got it in the 65th minute. And who else but Cucho Hernandez? I mean, he's been really active for this crew team the past couple of games. And he scored here from Aidan Morris to give Columbus a 1-0 lead. Though Amada did look to respond, but his long range effort goes right to Schulte, and then Cucho would miss wide from close range again. And really, as the time winds down, as much as Atlanta continued to press for the equalizer, Columbus, they looked like they were comfortable in terms of trying to hold on to the lead, though Yakimakis did miss wide from close range. It was quite a game for Yakimakis in this one. I mean, for a guy that also have been informed, Columbus did a good job in terms of shutting him down throughout the game. Though Schulte did deny Amada, but the cross did come in once again, and it was clear off the line. But then in the 7 minute stoppage time, Miles Robinson would score. He'd score here from Amada to tie the game up at one apiece. What a ball that was from Thiago Amada. And Miles Robinson, a guy that doesn't score a lot of goals for this Atlanta team, he buries that one to tie the game up at one apiece, because that's what Atlanta United do, and that's what an Atlanta United home game does look like. There's always tends to be some late drama and late goals in an Atlanta United home game, and it happened again with them getting the equalizer and salvage a point out of this one. And the stats kind of tell you the fact that Atlanta kind of got fortunate to earn a draw, because Columbus, they had 22 shots for the 10 that Atlanta had, 6 shots on goal for the 4 that Atlanta has, 9 shots off target for the 5 that Atlanta had, 7 shots on block for the 1 that Atlanta has, and both teams had 50% possession for both of these teams. So yeah, as much as Columbus has been playing well lately, even when they're playing on the road, this is a game that will definitely frustrate Wilfred Nancy because it's one thing to play good on the road, but if you're not getting the result, especially if you're going to have to go on the road in the playoffs and get those crucial goals to win games, and you only get draws. Yeah, that's not going to do it. And especially with the way in the playoffs, if the game ends in the draw, especially in the first round, it doesn't do you anything. It actually goes to a PK shootout, and Columbus has not really had a lot of luck in terms of that too, especially from what we saw in the League Cup. But for Atlanta, I know this was definitely not one of their better games, but they'll be happy the fact that they were able to salvage a draw coming out of this game because they could have easily lost this one. But that's the thing about Atlanta United; they always will find a way to score late goals to rescue themselves a point or get all 3 points at the end of the day. That being said, moving on in the next match is DC versus NYCFC. So coming into this game, for DC, this was an absolute must win. I mean, they absolutely needed to win this game to stay alive, and that in some way they have a very fringe playoff hope because they're actually the only team that will not be playing on decision day, and this was really their last game of the season, and they got the win in this one. But unfortunately, the resort didn't go their way. In the first half, I thought DC had all the possession early. Hurtado would then score the opening goal, but the goal was disallowed for offside. But you can clearly see early on DC was on the front foot. They desperately needed 3 points. But the first shot of the game for NYCFC did see Bono denied O'Toole from close range. So it's all about how DC need the 3 points. The same goes for NYCFC. I mean, you talk about playoff 6 pointer, and this is kind of the thing that I mentioned a lot as we wind down to the regular season. This is definitely one of them in a way that both of these teams need to get 3 points, and literally one of them had to get 3 points if they maybe want to stay alive in the playoff picture and get some help from other team. But in the 16th minute, Gray did puts it high off of the corner before Pereira would hit one right to Bono. NYCFC definitely have woke up after a slow start, and they were looking for the opener, but the post would deny Click from long range. That would be a key contributor in this game. The post. I mean, there was some unlucky moments here in this game from both teams in terms of hitting the post, but Pereira would then miss wide from close range. But then in the 45th minute, DC would strike. It's Mateus Click that will get the opening goal in this one. Speaking of the post, Birnbaum which struck the post here, but fortunately for him and his team, Click was in the right place in the right time to clean up that mess. And yeah, that gives DC a 1-0 lead heading into the second half. Now in the second half, Bono would deny Magno, but it was recycled back to Rodriguez, who his shot was blocked. Freeze would then deny Hurtado on a lightning counterattack, but then in the 62nd minute, Durkin would score the second goal of the game, and he can thank the NYCFC defense for this because this was just a gift. I mean, just an absolute terrible giveaway there from NYCFC at the back, and Durkin was there in the right place, right time to capitalize it, and and DC were now leading 2-0 in this game. Now in the 71st minute, Magno did look for a response, but he was denied by Bono before Bacron, which struck the post from close range. That's the third time that we see a team struck the post in this one. And funny thing is, that is not the most in terms of a game that feature post being struck in that many times, because as we'll talk about in the next game basically won up in terms of the crossbar challenge by both of these teams. And again, as I mentioned, the post has definitely not been kind for both of these teams. Freeze then denied Click from close range, and again, DC, they were pushing for a third, but the problem is, as much as they were pushing for a third to get a win, it kind of didn't matter because as the resort stand, because of how other resort was going on, it was kind of going against them. I mean, they even though they got the win, they would still be eliminated. And by the time the full time whistle was blown, DC does get the 2-0 win over NYCFC. The bad news is the resort didn't go their way, so they're eliminated from the playoff contention. And what's kind of weird is that they're kind of sitting ninth in the playoff spot, which at that point you're thinking, how can they be eliminated if they're sitting above the red line? Well, because of the fact that they have played all their games this season, and because the team around them still have a game in hand, and they're stay within 3 points of the range. It doesn't matter how it's going to be, and also because there's going to be matchup that there's going to be those teams that fighting for those two spots in the Eastern Conference face off against each other. DC would still be fall below the red line no matter what. So it's kind of weird to say that it's a weird situation, but yeah, that's kind of what happened when you have a situation when we have odd number of team, with San Diego coming into the league. Should fix the issue because that's always been an issue when there's odd team in the league, and that unfortunately one team had to be left out on decision day, and DC is that team. And also, after the full time whistle was sound and just hours after the game is over, Wayne Rooney basically decided to step down as the head coach of the club, and that's not a big surprise. I mean, I said it in the beginning of the season. This was pretty much a make or break season for DC United because they had to make the playoffs if Wayne Rooney is going to stick around, and knowing that he's only on an 18-month contract and his contract was going to end. Like even if he doesn't decide to mutually part away, I don't think he was going to come back to this team either way. And that, yeah, unfortunately, this season, I feel like this season again, the way that DC has played, it's kind of sums up this season where it's been a very frustrating year for DC fans because while there has definitely been improvement from last season, it just feels like it was a year where they were trying to make some of these signings and maybe hope that it can turns out to be a success. But then at the same time, I said in the beginning of the season, it could be a bust if some of these players don't stepped up. And lo and behold, we've seen at times with DC when some of those signings did step up, they were doing well. But when they don't step up, then they started to really struggle, and that, yeah, as a result, that's kind of what we saw where they just barely miss out on the playoffs. But in terms of shots in this one, 18 shots for the 14 that DC had, 6 shots on goal for the 5 that NYCFC had, 9 shots off target for the 5 that DC had, 3 shots that was blocked for the 4 that NYCFC had, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to the 47% possession that DC has in this game. And while NYCFC didn't get eliminated after losing this game, which again, it feels so odd to say that the team that won this game and they're above the red line, but they're eliminated because of the Nuts playing on decision day, and whatever outcome is going to happen on decision day, the resort will still means that DC will fall below the red line. This is a huge blow to NYCFC chances of making the playoffs. Like again, now they're gonna have to win their last game, and they're gonna really need some help in terms of for them to try and to get into the playoffs. With that being said, moving on in the next match is Miami versus FC Cincinnati, and it's over. Miami has been eliminated from playoff contention, and I'm pretty sure somewhere in New York and maybe somewhere in the Apple headquarters, the CEO is probably crying right now and are very frustrating of what they saw in this game. And also, Don Gabbert somewhere in the MLS headquarters probably crying right now in his sleep about how this was a perfect script and perfect headline that Messi, of course, is going to guide this team to the playoffs, and nope, it turns out they fall short. And what's even more frustrating thing is that it didn't even get into decision day. Like they were hoping that if Miami was going to miss out on the playoffs, at least at the very least it's going to happen on decision day, or at least in that 2-game mini series that they had against Charlotte, which that would have been a matchup that many people, including myself and certainly the commissioner of MLS and Apple TV, would hope that would be what could decide the playoff hole. But it seems like that's not going to be the case because FC Cincinnati, with this win and also resort going against Miami, is a reason why they got eliminated. Though they were coming out of this game, they'll definitely feel like they definitely had a chance to win this game, and that it was just a game where it was a game of missed opportunity for Inter Miami in this game. Now, early on, they had tons of possession, but not much really happened early in this one. Though Alvarez did struck the post from close range, so as I mentioned, this game it was featured 3 posts that was striking. Really, we know that this game it would be featuring 5 posts that was struck in this game. So again, the post was definitely not kind to both of these teams in this one. Though Santos did miss it wide after a lightning counterattack from Cincinnati, the game really was opening up early in this one. Tomaski would then puts it wide from long range before Calendar would deny Santos from close. And I thought early on Miami was having problem in terms of dealing with the Cincy transition. And this is not a big surprise because that's been kind of one of the weakness for Miami, where their midfield is a little bit too hollow, and that if you can counter quickly on them, and because Miami likes to push man forward, yeah, it's pretty easy to try to catch a team that is pushing forward and playing a high line. If you can quickly spring the counter attack on the opposition. But little do we know that that wasn't kind of successful for Cincinnati, at least for most part of this game, because In the 19th minute, this is where Miami really started to pile on the pressure. It started with the post denying Martinez from close range, and then the post would deny Kamaski from close range. So up to this point, three posts was basically hit, and I'm pretty sure right now, if Cincinnati went on to win this game, which spoiler alert, they did, the post would definitely be the MVP, and I'm pretty sure Salatano would definitely be kissing that post to death with the way that, yeah, they could have easily been 1, 2, or even 3-0 down if it wasn't for the post helping them in this one. Though Salatano did deny Farias from close in the 27th minute, the pressure was definitely mounting. But the problem is Miami still haven't been breakthrough, and the question is, can they do so? The shots were now up to 10-3 in favor of Miami, but as the half goes along, you kind of feel like Cincinnati kind of ride out that pressure, like that furious storm that Miami was putting kind of came to an end after the half-hour mark, and as a result, we head to halftime. Scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Calendar would deny Arias from long range before Bupenza shot was deflected and goes wide. I mean, whatever Pat Nolan said to this team at halftime, he must have choice words about his team. And even during the time when he did his halftime interview, he was not happy about how his team was playing. And I don't blame him. I mean, Cincinnati, besides the early bit where they found some success on the transition, they were getting pinned deep throughout and just getting blown apart by Miami, and that they could have easily been 1 or 2-0 down if it wasn't for the post rescuing them. But they definitely play much better and make some adjustment. They were pushing to try to get the opening goal. Though in the 55th minute, they get to meet Lionel Messi again. So Messi was summoned into this game. There was question whether if he would be playing or coming off the bench. Well, he did came off the bench in the 55th minute. Obviously a standing ovation, and pretty much everybody has their phones out taking a picture of Messi coming into this game as always. But he had his first opportunity on the free kick in the 59th minute, but he puts it high on the free kick. And as much as I know Messi has been a difference maker for this Inter Miami team, the fact that he hasn't played in a long time, you can clearly see he had rust. And I think like this was a game where it's shown that yeah, Lionel Messi is actually human in this game. Bupenza then puts it high from close range before Farias would puts it high from close as well. You feel like the next goal is definitely up for grabs, and it's definitely coming. I mean, both of these teams were pushing to trying to get the opening goal. And then in the 65th minute, it's the post that denied Vasquez from close range. So yeah, the post given, now the post is taken for Cincinnati. Yes, that's the 5th time the post has been hit in this game, which I think that has to be a record. I'm not sure if that is a record. It's probably close to being the record. The encounter would romp Bupenza as the flag went up, so that wouldn't have counted either way. I mean, Drake Calendar, he was trying his best to keep this team in this game because there was time where Cincinnati had some big opportunity, and that again, Calendar was determined to keep Miami playoff hopes alive and being a wall in this one. Miazga then hits it onto the roof of the net before he denied Bupenza in the 70th minute, and now it seems like Cincinnati has the momentum. Like they were looking for the dagger of Miami hope to make the playoffs. They were pressing for the opening goal, and they finally got it in the 78th minute. It's Barrial that gets the opening goal of this game, and guess what? It came off of a Miami turnover. We said this before for the past couple of games how this team has had a ton of problems in terms of turning the ball over in their own half. And well, in this game, they definitely done a much better job of it. They didn't turn the ball as much as I've seen in the past couple of games. They did it here, and it turns out to be a devastating blow. And that this is also why I've said that as much as I know Messi absent is definitely tainted this team in terms of the attack. I argue the biggest loss for this team isn't just Messi but Jordi Alba. I mean, Jordi Alba absent has really destabilized this defense to a point where throughout the season, as much as I've said that, well, Miami has definitely been more dynamic on the attacking end. Defense is still a problem. The defense is still a mess, and they still are giving the ball away cheaply. And I think that's probably going to be a thing that this offseason, Chris Henderson is going to have to sort this out, because it's pretty clear that while the attack is definitely good for this Miami team, the defense is probably going to be a thing that they have to sort out if they want to be competitive next season, because there's just way too many times that they have turned the ball over, like what we saw in the past couple of games, and also this goal that they gave up. And I think it would have been just so symbolic, the fact that Miami would be missing out on the playoffs and giving up that opening goal because of the fact that they turned the ball over badly in their own half. And really after the goal was scored, you can just hear a pin drop. I mean, throughout the ever since Messi has come into this team, you can see it's party atmosphere. It's vibes only at Drive Pink Stadium, but that was probably the most quiet I've heard. Like you can clearly see that this the 20,000 so that was in the stands, they were stunned. Like they thought that with Messi coming in, that means that they automatically will get that goal, but instead it's Cincinnati the one that gets the opening goal, and then Messi would drag it wide from long range in the 87th minute, and yeah, in the end, Cincinnati they get the revenge in this game against Inter Miami. I mean, I know Cincinnati didn't have anything to play for, but deep down, Pat Nolan wants to get some revenge after losing to this team in the U.S. Open Cup semifinal, and they did exactly that. As the shots in this one, 16 shots for the 14 that Cincinnati has, 6 shots on goal for the 2 that Miami has, 11 shots on target for the 6 that Cincinnati has, 3 shots on block for the 2 that Cincinnati has, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that Cincinnati has in this game. So, yeah, again, for Miami, they're playoff hope is done and dusted to the dismay of Don Gabbard and certainly Apple TV or organizer that was hoping for a Cinderella story for this team to make it to the playoffs, but also a huge sigh of relief to all the team in the Eastern Conference because I'm pretty sure all the team in the Eastern Conference were very concerned if Miami would make it to the playoffs. That yeah, they're gonna go on a Leagues Cup kind of run in the playoffs to and maybe even eventually win the whole thing. But that's not going to be happen. Miami is out of the playoffs, and now we'll see what they'll do in the offseason. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're going to continue to improve this team. I think this team is going to get better. But now there's also going to be the question of Lionel Messi and cue all the rumors about how he potentially could be going on loan, especially to Barcelona, because with the fact that Miami has a 4-month layover, and one of the thing about MLS that is different from all those European leagues, there's a long layover in the offseason. Like in Europe, you don't see a 4-month layover. That's completely unheard of, and that this is going to be interesting to see that is Messi. I mean, I know he's going to stick around with Miami at least until 2025, but is he going to go on loan somewhere else to keep himself fresh, especially with Copa America that is coming up in the horizon? But either way, should be a very interesting off season, and I'm definitely very going to be having some fun in terms of doing that moving forward series, talking about Miami in the near future. But that being said, moving on in the last game on this board is Montreal and the Portland Timbers, and boy did Montreal needed this one. I mean, in some way for this game, no, if even if Montreal doesn't win this one, it doesn't eliminate them in the playoffs. But judging by how they desperately need a win with how things have fallen apart in the last couple of games. They really needed this one against the Portland Timbers, and they did exactly that. In fact, they put on a performance that is probably one of the best performance that Hernan Lasada team has let this season in this one against the Portland Timbers. Now in the first half, Anthony would hit one right to see Wasp before Ibrahim would hit it just wide from the corner. The shots were 3-2 for Montreal early in this one, but then in the 28th minute, Sanusi Ibrahim would score from Opoku and Shrinier to give Montreal a 1-0 lead. They mentioned Montreal is 11-1-0 when they score first. So when this Montreal team score first, yeah, it's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to get all 3 points. And likewise, for the Portland Timbers, it's pretty much almost an automatic L. Every time they concede the opening goal, they're only 2 and 9 when they concede the first goal of this game. Well, I wrote 1-9 too, but they only won 1 game and lost 9 when they concede the first goal. Bingham then denied Kyoto from close range, but then in the 33rd minute, Mahala Poku would score. He scored from Ibrahim to make it 2-0 in favor of Montreal. So Poku must have seen that Sanusi Ibrahim score the goal, and Ibrahim of course scored the goal. He looks like he decided to return the favorite, being the assist man here, and Opoku being the goal scorer. But yeah, that made it 2-0 in favor of Montreal. In the second half, Aspria puts it high from close range. The Timbers, they actually had a lot of possession in this one, and if you know one thing about the Portland Timbers is that this is not a team that does well in terms of possession. So it's not a big surprise that they didn't really do a good job on the attack, and that Montreal, knowing they're up 2-0, they're happy to just kind of sit back. Though there was a scramble in the Timbers box, but or in the Montreal box that is, and it actually seemed Mabiala shot that just goes wide in the 60th minute. But then in the 66th minute, really the first shot for Montreal in the second half Montreal Chenier would score from Kyoto to make it 3-0 in favor of Montreal. Chenier continue to have a career season this year for Montreal and really kind of against the run of play because up to that point, Portland really kind of controlled the game. The post then denied Miller from the corner in the 68th minute. Before the 75th minute, Mason Toy would score to make it 4-0 in favor of Montreal. And this is when I kind of stop taking notes here because well, actually, I started to not take too much notes because knowing this game was kind of out of hand, and with the other game that is going on, I started to really focus on the other one, especially this game between Miami and Cincinnati. This is why I wrote a lot of notes on this one, and not so much in this game. Though, Bingham did deny Duke from long range. Again, it was all Montreal. They were looking to trying to really open the floodgates even more. Though in the 86th minute, the clean sheet did go away from Montreal as Frank Bowley would score from Jimmy Chara here to make it 4-1 in favor of Montreal, but really that was just a consolation of goal. Though they did announce that there was 8 minutes of stoppage, which, yeah, that kind of sounds a bit unnecessary. Now, keep in mind, I wasn't really paying too much attention to this one when the scoreline started got out of hand, so maybe there was an injury that was happening that warranted the 8 minutes of stoppage, and I'm pretty sure I looked back, there was no VAR review that was made because usually when you have a long minutes of stoppage, it's either there's a bit of an injury or multiple injuries that's happened or a long stoppage for VAR review, but none of them happened. And knowing the fact that this game was way out of hand, it was kind of unnecessary for them to have to put 8 minutes of stoppage in this one. But that being said, in the end, Montreal does get a much needed win, 4-1 win in this one. And the shots in this one, 15 shots for the 16 that the Timbers had, 5 shots on goal for the 8 that Montreal has, 4 shots off target for the 6 that the Timbers had, 3 shots that was blocked for the 5 that Portland had, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to the 43% possession that Montreal has in this game. And with this win also, Montreal stay above the red line. They're currently in 8th place, and they do control their own destiny in terms of making the playoffs. But they still need to win the next game. And guess who they play in the last game of the season on decision day? Oh yeah, it's that team that basically has their own head coach in the Columbus Crew. I mean, I'll tell you what, whoever made the schedule, I think they predicted that this was going to happen, where maybe Montreal that was the game that could decide the fate of the playoffs. And deep down, Wilfred Nancy would love nothing to eliminate his former team from the playoffs. I mean, as much as I know, Montreal fans still love Wilfred Nancy. I'm not sure Wilfred Nancy does the same for to Montreal, especially with the way how the front office kind of treated him. I mean, I'm pretty sure Wilfred Nancy does love the Montreal fans, but yeah, the front office kind of did him dirty last year, at least from what we heard, and he won blood in that game against Montreal. So the good news is they do control their destiny. The bad news is they do have to face against a team that that Columbus, and especially that's a home game for Columbus, and knowing how good Columbus has been at home and how bad Montreal has been on the road, yeah, that doesn't look like it's gonna be a game that's going to be have good odds for Montreal to get a win. But that being said, it is decision day. It is literally a day where for all these teams, they're going to give it all, especially for teams that are trying to make the playoffs or seal their playoff hope. So maybe things could be different in terms of that matchup, but we shall see. But for the Portland Timbers, I mean, the only good news is they're still above the red line, but the bad news is that there's still a possibility that they could miss out on the playoffs. And I think the other good news is at least they get to play at home on decision day. The bad news is they play against the Houston Dynamo, and as I will talk about in part two, yeah, that's a team that I'm pretty sure no one want to face right now, especially when the playoffs is about to start. With that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 4 games to conclude part one of this review. So moving on, we got the New York Red Bulls and Toronto FC. So coming into this game for the Red Bulls, if they want to keep the longest active playoff streak, they had to win this game against Toronto. Good news is they did exactly that, though. Again, Toronto is basically like the Santa Claus of MLS, giving 3 points left and right, and clearly are not interested in terms of playing the rest of the season. Even when John Herman made his debut as the TFC head coach in this game. And I think after this game, I think he'll probably be proud of the fact that there at least is some silverware that is being wear. Well, actually not silverware, but woodenware that is being that's being won. But unfortunately, at the same time, you could say that more serious tone it's probably not what John Herman was hoping for that on his first day as a Toronto FC head coach. His team basically clinched the wooden spoon spot. But that being said, both of these teams were also wearing their third kit. I really love the third kit for both of these teams, and I'm definitely planning and it's gonna be on my long list of wish list in terms of jerseys that I'm planning to get. But early on, in the 7th minute, Osorio would hit one right to Cornell before and down would heads it wide on the corner. Fernandez then hits it wide from close range before Gavron would deny Amaya, but it recycle from the Red Bulls, and Fernandez had another chance on that second attempt on that same sequence, but he hits it wide from close. There was no doubt that the Red Bulls were piling on the pressure. In fact, Galvan would deny Fernandez again from close range. But the question is, can they solve Galvan? Who, again, I really think that this is a guy that he could, if he actually has a defense, he could definitely be a goalkeeper to watch out from, because ever since he steps into this TFC role, I think he has been really good. And really, unfortunately, the numbers doesn't show because of the fact that he basically has no defense in front of him. And they eventually do break through the Red Bulls in the 45th minute, and it's Tom Barlow of all people scoring from Manuel to make it 1-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. You know you're a bad team when Tom Barlow scores against you, and this is nothing against Tom Barlow, but that's kind of the thing about Tom Barlow, where when he scored, it's kind of like once in a blue moon kind of thing. But really, this goal was all happened because it was just an absolute gift from Michael Bradley. I mean, just a WTF turnover in his own half. Not the first time we've seen TFC commit a WTF turnover in their own half and then concede a goal because of it this season. But we do head to halftime with the Red Bulls leading 1-0, and in the second half, they made it 2-0. It's Elias Manuel scoring from Luquinhas in the 48th minute to make it 2-0 in favor of the Red Bulls, and Luquinhas saw Manuel score the goal, and he said, I want to score one too. So he's did that in the 63rd minute as he scored here from Duncan to make it 3-0 in favor of the Red Bulls, and TFC basically looked down and out. I mean, again, John Herman, he's got his hands full in terms of trying to figure this team out and trying to rebuild this team, because you can clearly see this team definitely, they didn't look like they were in interest in terms of competing, and that I think the most surprising thing is you would assume that is the case with the way that jobs are definitely on the line for some of these players that is trying to fight for their next season, but that doesn't seem like that's the case, at least throughout this game. But in the 72nd minute, Harper would miss wide from close range, and then in the 83rd minute, Amaya almost made it 4-0, but he brushed the post after just another bad giveaway there from TFC. And yeah, in the end, it was pretty one-sided as expected whenever a team faced against Toronto, at least in the latter part of this season. And the shots basically shows that 16 shots compared to 4 that TFC had, 1 shot on goal compared to 5 that the Red Bulls had, 2 shots off target compared to 8 that the Red Bulls had, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that TFC had, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that the Red Bulls has in this game. And again, the Red Bulls in a must-win game to stay alive, they do exactly that. Now, the bad news is they don't actually control their own destiny, and that they're going to be pretty much Miami fans. Next well, actually not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday when Charlotte play again against Miami, because if Miami is able to beat Charlotte, then all of a sudden, yeah, it's gonna be very chaotic as we head into to decision day to decide who exactly is going to get the last two spots. I mean, it probably will still be chaotic even if Charlotte wins, but it just makes it even more chaotic to see who's going to get those last two spots in the Eastern Conference. Well, that being said, moving on in the next match is Orlando and New England. So this was a game where early on it was kind of even, and then there was a bit of a goal fest, and then things things continued to get a little even, and that defense seems like was kind of optional at time in this game between both of these teams. Now, the first shot of the game did see Santos puts it high from long range before Heel puts it high on the free kick, as both of these teams were getting some good early opportunity. That would be a thing we will see throughout this one. The shots were 4-3 for Orlando 21 minutes in, but in the 22nd minute, Heel would miss wide from close range before Shankale would struck the post from long range, which is kind of a common theme that we see from Shankale. Like, this kid can really hit a ball long range. We have seen him score some stunning golazo, and that he almost did it again here in the 24th minute. But there was no doubt the Revs started to gain control of this game, and they were looking for the opening goal. But it's Orlando, the one that gets the opening goal, as Duncan McGuire, he scores again. I mean, he is just red hot right now. He scored from Forensen to make it 1-0 in favor of Orlando. Not long after, Facu Torres would score. He scored here from Angulo. It was a great volley goal there from Facundo Torres to give Orlando a 2-0 lead. But or before we even get a chance to see Orlando maybe add a third one, New England responds. It's Carlos Gil scoring for Mark Anthony Kay to make it 3-1 in this one, or actually 2-1 up to this point. Kind of got a little ahead of myself there. But yeah, that's a goal that I think Galese won back. I mean, it's one that you think he should have saved. It wasn't really well hit from Carlos Gil, and the caliber that Pedro Galese is, you would think he has to save that one. Then in the 44th minute, Chagallé would miss wide from close as New England was looking to tie it, but instead Orlando restored their 2-goal lead. It's Angulo scoring from Santos here to make it 3-1, and again, defense seems to be optional because there were chances left and right for the final 15 minutes of the second, or not the second half of the first half, that is. But we do head to halftime with Orlando leading 3-1, though again, the scoreline is a little bit misleading because, there was chances for both of these teams. It's just Orlando were able to capitalize on most of the chances. In the second half, Edwards Jr. would deny Cartagena from long range before Santos would puts it high and wide from long range. Galese then denied Heel in the 60th minute. Of course, Chancalay would puts it wide from close range. Enrique then puts it wide from close in the 67th minute. Again, defense just seems to be not a thing. At least up to this point too. There was some good opportunity for both of these teams to score more goals. McNamara then hits it wide from close range, but as the time winds down, it looked like Orlando was gonna get the easy win, but New England did at least try to make it a little interesting. As in the second minute of stoppage time, Carlos Hill would score for the second time in this game. He's scoring for DeJuan Jones to make it 3-2 in this one. But the problem is New England only had like 1 minute left to try and to create a miraculous um, equalizer and trying to create some MLS after dark kind of moment, but it didn't happen. And Orlando was able to win 3-2 in this one. And the shots in this one, yeah, there was tons of shots. 22 shots compared to 16 that New England has. Again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that neither of these defenses did a really good job in terms of not of limiting those chances and limiting those shots. 5 shots on goal for the 4 that New England has. Both team had 8 shots off target, 9 shots that was blocked for the 4 that New England has, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that New England has in this game. So yeah, again, Orlando getting another win, continue this hot streak coming into the playoffs. They are going to be a problem when we get to the Eastern Conference playoff, because as I know that the Eastern Conference playoffs, I know it's going to be an absolute bloodbath, but Orlando might be a team that could come out of that bloodbath and on top, especially of how red hot they've been. And again, it's not about where you are in the standings. It's about coming into the playoff hot so you can ride that momentum into the playoffs. And Orlando City seems to have that. The opposite can say about New England. It just feels like this team is going to be a one and done kind of team, and it's a shame too because there was so much promise that is going on, but you look at the adversity that they've been facing for the past month or so, it's definitely started to take a toll on this team. But that being said, moving on in the next match is the Union and Nashville. So this could be a matchup we could see in the first round. And I gotta say, if this is a matchup in the first round, I don't think Union fans are gonna be happy seeing this matchup because this is gonna be a matchup I feel like could be very, very tense, and it could be very tightly affair. And it kind of showed in this one where, chances were kind of limited. It almost kind of felt like it was a little bit of a playoff game, kind of almost a preview of what we could see if this could be a first round matchup. But in the end, it ends in a 0-0 draw in this one. In the ninth minute, McGlynn puts it wide from long range, though not much really happened in the first 20 minutes. The shots were only 2-1 through 20 minutes. Gastag would then hits one right to Willis. Before Willis would deny Bedoya from long range, Martinez then puts it wide from long range. As I thought the Union was starting to get some good opportunity looking for the opener. Willis then denied Bedoya from close in the second minute stoppage time. But we do head to halftime with the score scoreless, despite the fact the Union had some good opportunity. Now in the second half, Bunbury would then hits it high hits it right to Blake in the 50th minute before he had another opportunity, but he missed wide from close range. I thought the transition play started to click for Nashville. I mean, that's been kind of a problem for Nashville in the past couple of games, and I feel like maybe teams are starting to figure it out that yeah, as long as you don't allow Nashville run, as long as you kind of neutralize Mukta, you're probably gonna be fine because they don't have a lot of attacking threat. And notice how I didn't mention Mukta name at all. He's been going through a funk ever since the Leeds Cup is over. And I feel like it's not a big surprise that Nashville is struggling right now because it feels like for the past couple of years, I talk about Minnesota and their success really live and die of how Reynoso does. I think it's got to be the same thing for Nashville. It's all about if Mukhtar is definitely on it. If he is on, which I know he can definitely be on, he has shown that he can go nuclear, and if he's on, this Nashville team is going to be good. But when he is not on, as we have seen in the past couple of weeks, this is kind of what we started to see with this Nashville team really struggling, especially in the scoring department now. But in the 58th minute, Bedoya would then hit it right to Willis before there was a huge shout for a penalty for the Union that was not giving in the 71st. In the 79th minute, Hawkinson would hit it wide from the corner, and you just feel like one goal might be enough for 3 points in this one because, it's been a very tightly contested game with not really too much chances, but we don't get that goal. As in the end, it ends scoreless between both of these teams. The shots in this one, 14 shots for the 7 that Nashville has, 5 shots on goal for the 1 that Nashville has. Both teams had 3 shots off target, 6 shots that was blocked for the 3 that Nashville has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to the 47% possession that Nashville has in this game. Again, it could be a preview in terms of the first round matchup, and if this is, of course, a preview for that. If you are a guy that is hoping for some high scoring affair in a playoff game, this is probably not the game you want to tune in. This should be a very tightly affair, similar to when the Union play against Cincinnati as one of their first team to play in the playoffs, and we talk about how that was a really tough matchup for them and would not be a favorable matchup. I think this would be the same thing. I think if you're the Union, if you're trying to get yourself back to MLS Cup. Nashville is probably not the first opponent you want to face. I mean, I know Nashville hasn't been playing well lately, and this is definitely a huge concern for this Nashville team. The fact that if you go into the playoffs, even if you make the playoffs, if you go in it cold, as what we've seen last season too with this Nashville team, it could be a one and done for them too. But that being said, the Union it just feels like playing a team like this, playing very compacted kind of team, it just doesn't really favor them too much, and that it could be a battle. It could be a war of nutrition in terms of this 3 game series as both of these teams meet in the first round of the playoffs. That being said, moving on into the last game on this one, and you notice I wear Charlotte because Charlotte got a big win in this one against the Chicago Fire, and unfortunately, for the Chicago Fire, it feels like its own narrative that started to come back. You know how in the last game, how I was really happy of how the Fire has performed, and that was probably the best that the Chicago Fire has had, and probably a moment that Chicago Fire fans will remember for a long time. Yeah, that quickly disappeared after this game. Though I will say that this game, it took a while for this game to get going because in the first half, nothing really happened in the first 22 minutes. And I get that this was a big playoff 6 pointer, but yeah, it feels like both teams was being very cautious in the first 22 minutes, though we did see a goal despite the cautious play in the 23rd minute as Ashley Westwood would score an absolute golazo from long range to give Charlotte a 1-0 lead. Not only that was the first shot of the game, but that could be a goal of the week contention and maybe would be one that wins the goal of the week because that was just an absolute thunder strike there from Ashley Westwood. And yeah, that gives Charlotte a 1-0 lead, and you think, well, this might open the game up, right? Nope. Instead, we then go for another period where not much has happened. In fact, by the time we hit stoppage, the shots were only 2-0 in favor of Charlotte. So we head to the halftime with the score scoreless. Oh, wait. By the way, Gutierrez did have an opportunity on the free kick, but his cross shot just missed wide. They didn't register as a shot there because it was kind of a little bit of a cross shot, which I feel like that should count as a shot. But up to this point, the shots were still 2-0, and we had to halftime with Charlotte somehow still getting the 1 goal advantage despite we having just 2 shots. In the 50th minute, oh, I just realized when I pick up the board, I accidentally smudged a little bit of this, so you can't really quite see the writing. So I'll talk about what happened in this one. Renin would then miss wide from close range, as I said. Up to this point, Fire still yet to register a shot up to this point, and then Brady was able to deny Orun from close range. But on that same sequence of play, a penalty was actually given to Charlotte after VAR deemed that Capetti was brought down in the box by Navarro, and that was just a silly challenge from Navarro. Like, there was no need for Navarro to make that foul on Capetti, especially that was kind of an off the ball situation. So yeah, Charlotte got a break on that. Schwedetsky steps up to take the penalty. It wasn't really a well struck penalty, but still able to do just enough to get past Brady. And yeah, Charlotte was leading 2-0 in this one. They were looking for more. Josviak was trying to make it free, but he was denied by Brady, and it just feels like it's all Charlotte up to this point. They have the momentum. It looked like they want the to make it to the playoffs more than the Chicago Fire. Petty then hits it right to Brady, but then in the 67th minute, finally the first shot for the Fire saw Haile Selassie hits one right to Kalina. Little do we know that that kind of fired up the Fire. Nope, no pun intended there, because this is when they start to really wake up. Shpilko would then puts it high from point blank before Kalina denying Shihos, who miss a sitter on the doorstep of goal. Yeah, that's one that Rafael Shihos would love to have back. I mean, I know he's a defender. He's not known for striking the ball with some pace, but yeah, he really mishits that one to a point where it's relatively comfortable save there from Christian Kalina. But there was no doubt the Fire have finally woke up. Now the question is, can they get that opening goal? Can they get one back in this one? Jones would then hit one right to Brady before Jimenez would hit it right to Kalina. And again, after just a slow start, chances are starting to fly. And you kind of had a sense that this was getting to a point where, both of these teams desperately needed the free points. So Chicago was going to continue to press to try to get one back, while Charlotte trying to make it free to really seal all 3 points in this one. Shapilko would then puts it high from close before Gutierrez would miss high and wide on the free kick. We would get 11 minutes of stoppage, so this was not over for Charlotte, even with the 2-goal lead, though Gutierrez didn't miss wide from close range, and in the end, it was over as Charlotte get a massive 3 points in this one. Not only help their causes in terms of making the playoffs, they actually now control their destiny in terms of making the playoffs. So they can win their final 2 games against Inter Miami, and mind you, that first one that they have is going to be a Miami team that does not have Messi and going to be missing a lot of their starter due to international break. There's a chance that Charlotte could sneak into to the playoffs. And for a team that I thought they were dead and buried with the way that they had that absolute free fall between July and September, seems like Christian Latanzio and this Charlotte team has able to hit the switch right at the right time to make a late playoff push. As like I said, getting a massive 2-0 win, and the shots in this one, 11 shots compared to the 7 that Charlotte has, 5 shots on goal for the 3 that the Fire has, 4 shots off target for the 1 that Charlotte has, 1 shot that was blocked for the 4 that Chicago has, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that the Chicago Fire has in this game. And as for Chicago, please don't do this. I mean, I'm not a Chicago Fire fan, but I don't want to see this. I really don't want to say that this is the old narrative coming again, where false hope once again presume this team to a point where they eventually will miss out on the playoffs on decision day, because yeah, now they're up against it. Like now they absolutely need to win on decision day, and need to rely on help so they can make it to the playoffs. And again, just I really, like, if there is a team that I want to make it to the playoffs and get the last 2 spot, it's got to be the Chicago Fire, because of how much misery that this franchise has suffered for the past decade. And that, just as you thought that last game was kind of the statement win and maybe the turning point, it happened again. And again, as I said before, just please don't do this. Like for the sake of the Chicago Fire fans, if there's still any of them that's rooting for this team, and if you're a hardcore supporter, I mean, I absolutely salute you, because it has to be tough in terms of supporting a team that has not only done this for the past couple of years, but this has been a decade long of narrative of them always coming close because of losing big games like this. Just don't do it again. Please get it done on decision day, and hope that they can make it to the playoffs. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of looking at part 1 of this review. Like I said, tomorrow I will be doing part 2 of the review, even though it's a little bit late. It's a day late in terms of me doing the review. But as always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these games. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys hit a like, smash the subscribe button. And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.